My name is Russell Bannon. I work for the United Steelworkers out of the organizing department. I'm also the coordinator for the Catawba Central Labor Council. And I'm just here to welcome you. Here comes my daughter, Alicia. Come here. Oh, thank you.
Did you plan that?
So we're all here today. The reason really all this kind of got going was about a year ago. I met Brandon at Bump Roddy's campaign. We had a meeting when he was doing a fundraiser. And immediately I connected with Brandon Upson. I saw where his passion was, his dedication not only to his community and his family, but he was consistent. And he delivered, and he always showed up when we called him. He showed up for the workers at GT Tire when they needed a microphone and a megaphone to amplify what was happening in Chester County. He showed up for the steel workers in Georgetown, whose mill was under threat of being closed. And he delivered, and he helped save the mill. And because of that, generations from now, we'll continue to have good paying jobs that they can take care of their families. But without further ado, I want to welcome James Dukes, who's the president. Let me welcome James Dukes. He's the business agent for the Boilermakers, whose building we are in tonight. He's also the president of the Catawba Central Labor Council. He's also one more title. He's also the vice president of the South Carolina Building Trades. Everybody, please welcome James Dukes.
Woo! It's not about me. It's not about me. It's about somebody else. The man I want to introduce y'all to tonight is a very liked man in the state of South Carolina. I haven't known him that long, but every time somebody talks about this man, he's up here on the pedestal. So, and he's labor friendly. So now I'm going to get all the union laborers in South Carolina to push this man, to put their hands on his back, make sure he don't fall. So I'm going to take him and introduce him to all the business managers for the union trades. See if we can't move him forward.
That's right.
I understand this man here served in the military. So, hey, thank you for your services. The Boilermakers, we have a program called Hard Hat, or Helmets to Hard Hats, where we bring people like Brandon in that wants to do a career outside of the military. So I'm going to get Brandon all the literature that we have on that, so he can take it to wherever he needs to these bases around South Carolina, these people, these technical colleges, and wherever he goes, he got something that he can show. Look, I got union backing me. That's what I'm going to give you. So,
that's right.
You know, I think Brandon is a friend, personal friend. I think he'll do a great job in the state of South Carolina. It's about time we have somebody like him that's willing to step up and do this job that has needed done for years. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce y'all to a real good friend.
Bump start.
Oh, Bump. Bump Roddy. I was looking out ready for Brandon. Stand up and get a big hurrah. But thanks for that warm-hearted welcome, everyone. And I just want to take it. This is a personal moment for me because Brandon has, from the time I met him, also. I'm constantly having campaigns going. Y'all know I will run for something. I will run for something. I will run for something. And each time Brandon has been on board and done some leg work behind the scenes. He's not one to want to be out front to take the credit for the moving and shaking that always has to go on. But he's been a part of a lot of the leg work that has to be done and was done in York County. One, to help me stay in office, to help John King stay in office, and some of us Democrats. It's only a few of us in York County. Matter of fact, there's only 2 of us in York County. A third one has a part of York County. So we got to get some people on the state level who recognizes what we have and what we can have throughout the rest of the state. We should have more elected Democrats in York County.
That's right.
We should have more elected Democrats in Chester County. We should have more elected Democrats in Lancaster, Fairfield, Richland County, Horry County, Charleston County. We can elect more Democrats.
Yes.
Because our platform fits the working man, working woman.
That's right.
And America was built on the backs of working class people. And it's going to continue to be on the backs of working class people. And until some other people recognize that and get on board with it, and we have to do it at the top. The state party chairman is where it starts at, to push and set the agenda for the rest of the state, for us to fill in the gaps and push for certain agendas. And I'll say it, I'm a steel worker, I'm a union worker. And if you heard the State of the Union last night, we have a president that's going to back union labor in this country. So it's already started at the very top, and we got to stop these businesses, like he said last night, we got to stop businesses from stopping employees from wanting to organize and take control of their workforce. That's what the union does, and I'm a part of it, and we're doing some great work down in Chester County. We're laying some great groundwork, and I think it's going to be imperative that the face of the Democratic Party resembles what looks like this party should be in the state, because we all know Democrats can't get elected until us African Americans show up at the polls, because we know our other brothers and sisters are showing up, but we got to have somebody with that leadership who can pull out that vote to help us get across the hump so that we can put more Democrats in office. There's no reason why the state of South Carolina has been lagging at the top of the categories, or at the bottom of categories that we need to be at the top of, and at the bottom of categories we need to be at the top of.
That's right.
So we got to put people in office who recognize education, workforce, and making sure companies that come into South Carolina pay a livable, decent wage. You should not have to work a 40-hour full-time job and still have to go work another part-time to fill in the gaps. It's just unheard of. We can't continue to do that. We can't continue to take money out of our public schools to shift over to public-private charter schools. That's draining our public education. We're seeing teachers leave the educational profession every single day. It's not every single year. Teachers are leaving in the middle of the school year to go to these other opportunities. So we got to have people who recognize what's really going on in this state. And I think Brandon is the guy that's going to emphasize that. Brandon is the guy that can pull together both sides. It is not just about black, it's not just about white, but it's about the part that it really affects. And I think the Democratic platform in South Carolina will affect a lot more people than they realize. And I'm not going to belittle the point, and I know y'all came here, Brandon, but I wanted to make sure y'all know what he's going to represent and how he's going to do it, because he has a plan to pull us together. You know, we're already divided on so many different fronts, from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and especially on Sunday. We need people that's going to pull us together, and so we can work for the working man and working woman. And I stand behind Brandon Upson 100%. From a county council standpoint, he's going to get my endorsement. From a union labor standpoint, he's going to get my endorsement. Right here. Without further ado, the next voice you'll hear will be my good friend for probably about 4 or 5 years now. I met Brandon several years ago, but ever since, he's been one of my go-to guys when I've needed somebody to step in and fill in the gaps. And I hope he's next, because I'm ready for him to get up here, because I left a pot of beans on it. Without further ado, Brandon Upson.
All right, so I just want to thank y'all for being here. Thank you, James, for everything that you're doing. Not just because I'm running, but literally the work that you're allowing us to do as a coalition is amazing. If y'all can give it up for James. Thank you, sir. Bump, thank you so much for your leadership. Y'all, if anybody knows Bump, you can describe him in one word, and that's courageous. This brother is willing to step out there, even if he has to step out there alone, to stand for what is right. And that's what I've seen over and over and over from him. Thank you, Brother Bump. I really appreciate it. Y'all can give it up to Bump as well. So some of y'all know me, some don't. So I want to introduce myself. My name is Brandon Upson. I'm from Aiken, South Carolina, born and raised. I'm the second oldest of 6 with my father, and then oldest of 2 with my mom. And I'm husband to Monica Upson back here, who makes everything possible for me. Father of 3, because that's Sophie and Patrick are over there. Now they're quiet, so this is good. We don't get a lot of quiet out of them. They're 6, 7, and 8, so they love screaming, right? But I served 11 years in the United States Army and Army National Guard. Cool. I joined when I was 17 years old. I remember being in the 10th grade and in second period, and everyone, all the adults, were whispering, and we were trying to figure out what was going on. And finally, they turned on the TV, and the first plane had already hit into one of the trade towers. And throughout the entire day, from class to class, they had the TV on, and we were watching everyone, the world, in panic because of these terrorist attacks. And one after another, we saw our country under attack right on our own soil. And, never thinking that would ever happen. I remember, studying Pearl Harbor, but never thought that I would witness Pearl Harbor. Mm. But going into my ROTC class and having conversations and leaving there, I knew I had a responsibility to my country. So I made up in my mind, I'm going to join the Marine Corps, and I'm going to go and fight and protect my country. Unfortunately, when I was ready, I was only 17, so they wouldn't take me. And I went to the Marine Corps officers' table. I was like, I want to join. It was like, you got to wait till you're 18. So I was like, okay, well, I'll come back. Walking away, and the National Guard recruiter said, hey, Brandon, come here real quick. let me talk to you for a second. And lo and behold, I joined and became a nuclear, biological, radiological, and nuclear specialist in the Army, deployed when I was 19 years old, after my recruiter told my mom there was no chance for me to deploy. My name was number 1 on the deployment list. And when I went to country, like I said, I was 19, and I reclassed there from CBurn is what they call us, to a combat engineer. And our job was to clear the IEDs, the bombs, from the sides of the roads. So then I had in my mind I wanted to be special forces, right? So I was doing all the dumb stuff kids do who think they're invincible, and qualified to join a 3-man small kill team. And from then I volunteered on over 100 combat missions. But during my time in Iraq, I had to do a couple missions that literally changed my life. I had to pull security for one of their democratic elections. And it was something that I have never seen in my life, this type of process where folks were willing to literally risk their own lives to cast a ballot. And folks lined up for blocks, ready to dip their finger in ink to cast their ballot, knowing that mark on their finger that would last 3 to 5 days was going to mark them as a target for those who didn't want them to participate. But they did it anyway. And then when I came back home, I was 21 years old. I always tell folks I went to Iraq as a boy, came home as a grown man, because I could drink, but never did. But if I wanted to, I knew I could. But I came home, and to find out my uncles weren't even registered to vote. Didn't even think their vote counted. So, they were wondering, why should I even bother? The thing's already rigged. They already know who's going to win. Why should I even waste my time? And this is 2005, y'all. And we all know, 2005, 2007 is when I came back. President Barack Obama then, Senator Barack Obama, was making his way on the scene. And I was inspired and wondering why my uncles weren't inspired too. So I went down to the county office and got a stack of voter registration forms and made sure every member of my family was registered to vote and made sure they voted not just in that election, but the Upson family has not missed an election since. So, you know, if it wasn't for that time in theater, if it wasn't for that opportunity to witness the sacrifice that it takes to establish a democracy, that seed may not have been planted in my head or in my spirit, you know? After transitioning from the Army, I did 11 years in my BDUs, my ACUs. And I transitioned from serving my country in uniform to serving my community on the ground. And in 2011, I was working, well, 2010, I was working for the South Carolina Democratic Party, my very first paid gig. And I was the organizer over in Georgetown, Williamsburg, and Horry County while I was taking 16 credit hours at the College of Charleston. So I would get up early in the morning, go to Georgetown and try to make it back in time for class, or I would try to finagle it to where I would get all my stuff done there, take a nap, and wake up in the morning so I could drive to my 8 a.m. class that I had on Thursdays. And that semester, it wasn't easy, but I still pulled out my 3.0, but my transmission went out because I put 27,000 miles in my car during that campaign. But I learned so much. I learned what it looks like to engage the grassroots. I learned what it meant to look at the data and make strategic political and campaign choices based on the metrics. But most importantly, I learned not to fear my own people, because it's when you're willing to go into the hood, the dark corners of our community, the rural edges of our state, that's where you find that magic. That's where you find those folks who are willing to invest even more of themselves to make the change that they've been waiting on for generations. I know Jamie Harrison used to talk about the folks that were on the dirt road and said that road's been dirt from Bush to Clinton to Bush again to Obama, and it's still a dirt road. Nothing's changing. He touched on something that's very important, because in 2020, during the pandemic, we started an organization called Amplify Action, where we wanted to increase the participation of young black men across the South. We went into that thinking with some audacity, I should say, that we would be able to engage black men in a new and unique way of meeting them where they are, not putting any labels on it, but coming to them with a unified mission to better our community, to show them how voting could improve their daily lives. And we thought we were going to register 110,000 from July to October. We didn't do that. We registered 30,000. But then we looked at our data and realized that we also registered over 60,000 black women during that time. And since then, we've registered over 200,000 black men and women and mobilized over 1 million of them across our 7 southern states. So that took hard work, but I would not have had the skills to do that if I didn't have the experience in 2010. I wouldn't have been ready for 2010 if I didn't have my experience in Iraq in 2006. And I wouldn't be ready today to tell you that I'm running to be the next chair of the South Carolina Democratic Party if I didn't have any of that experience to lead me up to this day.
All right.
And we are here in a time where we've lost 60 Democratic incumbents in the last 3 years here in South Carolina. In 2021, we lost over 30 local municipal Democratic incumbents. Last year, we saw the lowest African American voter turnout in a generation. And my question is, when are we going to say enough is enough? When are we going to say, what is the plan to get us moving forward? You know, I was in Charleston. Well, we announced in Charleston on Saturday, and I've learned this new phrase for me. It's a theory, and it's called the cognitive dissonance theory. The next day I said dissidence. But my wife corrected me and let me know it was dissonance. But cognitive dissonance means that you do one thing when you say you believe in another. And cognitive dissonance is the thing that keeps us here in South Carolina from the things that we deserve. When Republicans say that they're the party of the working class, but bust every union opportunity we have in this state, that's cognitive dissonance. When the Republicans say that they're for freedom and individual choice, but then they stop women from having the autonomy to determine what they do with their own bodies, that's cognitive dissonance. But also when we, in our Democratic Party, in our Democratic primaries, fight to the death with one another, but then tiptoe to the general election because we're afraid to tick off the Republican voters, that's also cognitive dissonance. When we say that we're the big tent party, but then we gatekeep and control who can come in the tent in the first place, that's also cognitive dissonance. And when we say that we want to win elections, but we fail to engage our grassroots and put together a coordinated campaign to meet folks where they are, that's also cognitive dissonance. That's right. And that's exactly what we need to change. So with this campaign that we're running, we're calling ourselves the slate, the Forward Together Slate. Forward Together means we're moving forward in a unified way. And where are we going? When we take control of the leadership of this party, we're going to kick the doors wide open because there's no room for a party that plays with subtraction and division when the only thing that gets you victory is addition. Yeah. We have to bring more people in, and we have to go outside of our bubble to find them. The people that we need to win elections don't show up to our Democratic Party meetings. These folks, some of them are under the tree on the weekend with a 40 in their hand and a Newport cigarette in the other. You know, some of these folks are, standing in line trying to get the benefits that they need to make it to the end of the month because their dollars and their paycheck won't get them there. Amen. We need the folks who are here working hard in labor, members of the union, who are building the infrastructure that we need to take us into the future. There's no time for a Democratic Party to be afraid to say we support labor in a southern state like South Carolina. So what does that look like? That looks like rebuilding the winning coalition. Because you can't go anywhere in this country and find Democrats winning without the support of a union. James said it best. He said he's trying to get the unions behind me, right? I see myself as a union candidate, even though I've never had a union card. But I've been an advocate for labor for the last 10 years. The first time I met a person that was in a union, I was in Charleston and met Kenny Riley. Kenny Riley was the president of the local of the International Longshoremen Association. I had no clue what it was, but I knew this man looked cool. And he needed help with an issue they had there, and I had the connections to make it happen. So all I had to do was make a call. It wasn't any time away from me, any sacrifice of money. All it took was the willingness to help. And from then, he's taken me under his wings. He's helped me in so many ways, but he's exposed me to the opportunities that unions provide. Right here in this building, they have an apprenticeship program on the other side of this wall where kids out of high school can come here, get in their apprentice program, and start off with $23 an hour. I know grown folks that have been working for 30 years who ain't making $20 an hour. You know, the partnership between labor and our party is amplifying each other's message,
Yes.
strengthening one another, preparing us to move this state forward together. That goes right into our grassroots. When we talk about a grassroots infrastructure in this party, in South Carolina, it is completely devoid. In 2010, when I had my first job, I was an organizer, but I wasn't the only one. There were organizers in every corner of the state. We had satellite offices in every region of the state. We had volunteers that were making calls. We did over 1 million phone calls. And that year, Vincent Shaheen came within inches of winning the governor's race. That didn't happen because Vincent Shaheen had a cool name or a cool daddy. That happened because we had a grassroots infrastructure to get him there.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, we can't even win a city council race, yet alone try to win a governor's race. We've got to rebuild our grassroots infrastructure and get back to the people.
That's right.
In addition to that, we got to fight for our brand as Democrats in South Carolina, because Republicans control the message and we don't counter. We respond, we react, but we don't have a proactive message to tell people who we are, what we believe in, and what it means to vote for a Democrat. What it means when a Democrat wins a local or statewide election, and how it impacts their communities. But what I do know is, when Democrats lose, more children go to bed hungry. When Democrats lose, my daughters over there end up with less rights to their body than their grandmothers had. When Democrats lose, the governor, like Nikki Haley did, stops it and makes it illegal for municipalities to raise the minimum wage in the state. When Democrats lose, people, working people, poor people, children, women, Hispanics, Latinx, black folks, we all lose. And if we're going to do this the right way, we have to realize that we're not just fighting for November. We're literally fighting for lives. So when I talk about we're moving forward together, I'm talking about bringing the entire community together with a forward vision on how we're going to tackle these things and improve the lives of everyday people. So I'm asking y'all to join us. Like on my slate right now, I'm not running alone. The other members of my slate, they couldn't make it tonight. I was telling James or Russell this is my fourth time calling Russell James, and he's my friend. You know? So if I forget your name,
I thought we were.
if I call you something else, chalk it up to my brain, not my heart. But I'm used to doing 2 and 3 laps around the state a week. That's my wife. I'm used to waking up, getting the kids on the bus, and getting on the road to go to Charleston or Beaufort, and then having meetings along the way before I get back home at 12 in the morning. I'm used to, going out to Anderson County like I did yesterday for an event, but canvass the neighborhoods out there for an hour before I go speak, then go to a meeting in Spartanburg, then leave that meeting at 9 o'clock in Spartanburg, go to Gaffney, and then get back home around 1 a.m. in the morning, and get up in the morning and do it all over again. I'm used to that. I'm used to keeping my sleeves rolled up and my good boots on because it requires work to make change.
That's right.
And I'm not afraid of it. Some folks asked me today when I was making calls if I was seasoned enough to do this. If I was seasoned enough. I was like, okay, I'm 37, but y'all know I've run over 40 campaigns. Y'all know last year I had over a dozen campaigns that I worked on, and we only lost one. You know, last year I flipped 3 city council races from Republicans to Democrats. Y'all know that, right? Y'all know every year I raise anywhere from $125,000 to $500,000 to support nonprofits and other candidates that traditional party people won't support, right? Mm-hmm. You do know that. I don't know if that's the salt and pepper you're talking about. That's easy. But I got a little seasoning on that, right? So when y'all go out from here, and I'm asking you on behalf of the Forward Together Slate, on behalf of Mary Geren, who's in Anderson tonight, she's the executive director of that county party, and completely turned that county party around and developed it into a juggernaut. Mm-hmm. They challenged nearly every race that was available last year. They may not have won, but they moved the needle. They are creating a bench of candidates that will push our message and engage with our communities. That's Mary Geren. Melina Rodelo, she's a first-generation American, a Hispanic woman who, when we win, she will be the first Hispanic or Latinx person to ever sit in leadership in our party's state party in history. It's past time for that. Yes. And Erica Sampson, a young mother, single mother from Charleston, who, just like I said, I keep my boots on. Yes. She keeps her boots on, and she stays in the streets fighting for the rights of women, of young folks, and of the LGBT community. I got a working slate. We may not have all the seasoning, but I bet you we got the juice. And we're gonna use it to win this election. And I'm asking each of y'all who are here today, join us. Please support us. We need not just your prayers, not just your faith and your hope, not just those intangibles, but we need your sweat. We need your help to make phone calls and call any of the other delegates that you may know, whether they're delegates or not. We need you. We need your donations because it's expensive getting up and down this road. Tomorrow I'll be in Mullins, and the next day I'll be in Georgetown. But before those 6 p.m. meetings, I'm stopping and having conversations, and so are the rest of my team. They're coming from Charleston, Coney, and Anderson. So we need your support so we can run the real type of race that you can be proud of. We can no longer run for party leadership just by a tweet, an email, and throwing some mud every now and again in the press. Right. Now we got to get to the people and have real conversations and rebuild that grassroots infrastructure while we're running for the office. And that's what we're doing. I thank you so much again for being here. I thank you for your support, for all y'all that support me. James, Russell, Bump, thank you. Thank you to all our labor folks and supporters who are watching. But thank you, and y'all have a blessed night. Thank you again. I'll answer any questions. If y'all have a few questions. No, keep it going. Yes, sir.
I want to make a quick announcement. One other way that you can help Brandon is to go to our precinct organizing meetings and become a delegate, so that you can go to Columbia, so that you can vote for Brandon. That requires just showing up, and a lot of our precincts don't have precinct, call them chairmen or president. So once you get involved with your precinct, where you go to vote, every voting location, that's a precinct. It's going to have someone who organizes it. It's going to be, I think you go by president, secretary, all that good stuff. Every precinct has one, and every precinct can send a delegate to Columbia to go vote during the convention. So that's one way that the common man, common woman, you don't have to be a strategist, you don't have to be an expert, but show up, become a delegate, and you go to Columbia and you can cast your vote.
Absolutely. Thank you for that information. Thank you. Any questions? Some of the counties have their conventions this year.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but not all of them.
So that's great that he's encouraging to do that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Any questions from anybody? All right. Thank y'all.